guys ever heard of a DISC assessment? Yeah? All right. Raise your hand if you haven't heard of DISC assessment. Okay. All right. This is pretty cool, all right? And I took one recently, and it was funny because the first few pages just explain what this is about. And I wanted to share this with you guys because it goes hand in hand with dealing with people, whether it's friendships, relationships, people that you're gonna be selling, people you wanna bring into your business. And it can basically break down exactly how somebody thinks, how they're gonna act or react to certain situations, how they behave naturally, and how they behave as a result of the environment that they're in. For example, if your environment is heavily influenced by your work or the people that you hang around, you might, not purposely, but subconsciously, you change the way you are. And so you have like an adapted sort of state of being, how you respond to anger or pressure or whatever it is. And then if you're not in that environment, here's how you kind of are at your core. And so the first few pages are very just generic. This is what this means, this is what this means. I'm reading this, I'm with Brittany, and we're just reading this. And she knows me very well now to know, like, I don't listen very well. I have the attention span of a goldfish. I'll hear 3 words from somebody and decide if I want to continue listening or not. And I have no patience, all right? So we're reading this, I'm like, this is all generic. I get to the 4th page and it's like, Ben, you don't have patience. If somebody approaches you, they better have facts. Like all this stuff. And it broke it down, it is so accurate. So we both did them, and I would say that it is 98% accurate of how I am or how I respond. And I'd be willing to bet that for all of you, if you took one as well, you can find some online, but they're not very good. There's a good DISC assessment, and I can give you guys the link. It costs a couple $100s to take. Honestly, if you are part of Grant Cardone's community, he has the DISC assessments already lined up. That's where I got this from. But I wanted to go over this. So DISC stands for dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientious. And what typically happens is you have like a dominant sort of area, and then you have sort of a secondary area, and then you're usually not so much of the other two. So for me, I have a dominance and an influence personality, and I'm not so much the conscientious or the steadiness. The steadiness, specifically patient and relaxed, I'm neither of those by far. And it broke all this down, but it's very good in understanding who you are working with, yeah. I spent 4 years in car sales, and that gave me the knowledge to be able to have the company that I have now and to be able to do the things that I do now. If I didn't have that education, I wouldn't know how to talk to people. I wouldn't be able to like sense body language, or if I got to back off, if there's a deal there. And what it comes down to is, you know, like for example, if you're going to a car dealership and you have 5 kids, well, you're probably gonna need a van. You're concerned about safety. I, as the car salesman, I'm not gonna start talking about how the engine works, or that it's got a timing chain, or it's got this torque vectoring, whatever. It's, you know, I gotta talk about safety, airbags, and the fact that even if you have 6 kids stocked up in this thing and all 6 of them weigh 400 pounds, you'll still get 300 miles a gallon. Like those are the things I need to be talking about. So it's understanding who you're working with. And so I wanted to just break this down, and you guys can write down, I would recommend, write down how you feel you are, all right? Write down what character traits you feel that you possess in here, okay? So I would suggest put this across. You've got, okay, so you have high dominant style, and I can get up, I can write this. You have high dominant style. All right, so you've got all of these. Dominant, influencing, high steady, high conscientious. Now, do you tend to act assertive, persuasive, patient, or contemplative? All right, if you're assertive, dominant. If you're persuasive, influencing. Persuasive is a good sales characteristic, obviously. Patient would be steady, contemplative would be conscientious, all right? So you have assertive if you're dominant, persuasive if you're an influence. You have patient if you're steady, contemplative if you're conscientious, all right? Now, if you are dominant, you demand action, you typically demand action. If you're in a situation and the problem arises, you want action, 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 action. You want to take action to fix it, get to the solution. If you're typically a high influence person, you tend to attack. Steady people can they typically like comply with situations. Whether they agree or disagree, they typically just comply with it. All right, they're very agreeable. If you're conscientious, you tend to avoid confrontation, circumstances that are not favorable. If you ran ads, spent 30 grand in a month and lost all of it, you retreat, things like that. And we'll talk about the time that we spent money like that and didn't get any back. So your primary drive, if you're of a dominant style, is independence. All right. If you're an influence personality, your primary drive is interaction. You want to interact with people. You want camaraderie. You want to be able to communicate. You like networking with people. Primary drive for somebody with a steady personality, stability. And if you're conscientious, your primary drive is correctness. You have to be right. You have to be right and accurate. Okay, so if you're dominant, your preferred tasks, you like to be challenged. You like to have a challenge. You want to be able to win the race. You want somebody to say, I don't think you can do this, and then you want to go do it. If you're an influencer, you want to relate to people. That's your preferred task. You want to be relatable to people. You want people to relate to you. If you have a steady lifestyle, Brittany, everything is scheduled. It's scheduled. It's got by this time and this date, here's my calendar. There's a room over here where it's Brittany's office, and there's paper taped across the wall, and it's got like, this is this month's plan or this week's plan, and this is the agenda for the business. I love it because that's how I work too. It's just funny because everything is scheduled. Also, she's got her side of the bed, I have my side of the bed. If I arrange something on her side of the bed, or if I'm trying to help her pack her suitcase or something, it's nice. It all gets taken back out and then put the way Brittany wants. I'm not throwing you under the bus, but it's true. It's true. All right. Conscientious style, you're structured. You want structure, discipline, you want order, okay? Now, if you're a high dominant style, you're comfortable with being decisive. If you're an influence style, you are comfortable with social friendliness. High steady style, you like being part of a team. And if you're conscientious, order and planning. You're also an organizer if you're conscientious. If you are dominant, your personal strength is you're good at solving problems. If you have an influence style, you're encouraging, you like to encourage people. High steady, you are a supporter. Now, here's where your strength can overextend itself. Here's where it can become something that doesn't help you. It hinders you, okay? If you overextend your strength, you have a preoccupation on goals over people. With your strength overextended, so you're an encourager, okay, if you're an influence style. Well, sometimes you encourage so much you speak without thinking, all right? You think you're being encouraging, but you go way over the top of people, and they don't understand what you're trying to say. It can almost be a negative. Steady people. Procrastination in addressing change. Conscientious, they overanalyze absolutely everything. Overanalyze everything. They're gonna plan everything, they're gonna write everything down, they're going to say what they're going to do, they're always gonna be talking about it, but they're never actually gonna do it, all right? So as you're writing this stuff down, you don't have to tell me, but you can be honest with yourself, like, where are you at in this? Where do you find strengths and weaknesses? Maybe you're in a relationship with somebody, maybe you had a deal, maybe you were talking to somebody, and you're like, man, they retreated when I did this, or I tried lifting them up, but they seem to go down even further. These are just things characteristics of identifying what you have in yourself, and when you're interacting with other people, how they react. So I wanted to just briefly go over that.